Well, our moms think we're funny.
Hey everybody, my name is Turk182.
And I'm Acomi.
So Acomi, how's it going, man?
What's up? What's up?
The sky. I don't know, man. I mean, shit. I missed a lot of things up, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So I saw a pretty cringy video earlier in the week.
Do tell.
Oh, there's a Little Nightmares too. So it's a video of the voice of Bart Simpson. Is that Nancy Cartwright?
Yep.
I remember.
Sounds about
Okay.
right.
Yeah. And she goes up to some barista at Starbucks and is doing the Bart Simpson voice, but not being in a studio, she doesn't sound the same as if she's actually on the TV. So she's talking to this guy, and you can tell that he's really, really uncomfortable. And she's like, "Yeah, do you recognize my voice? Do you know who I am?" And he's just kind of awkwardly looking into the camera over and over. And finally, he's like, "Bart Simpson." She's like, "Yeah, that's right." It was really bad.
Wow.
It was a really, really cringy video.
I remember listening to what was it? It was an episode of God. Was it Wait, Don't Tell Me? I think it was, and it had H. John Benjamin on it, and he was talking about how he would go to get coffee from this place, and it was maybe it was Starbucks or whatever, and the barista there's name was Lana, and whenever he would go up to her, he would be like, "Lana, Lana," and he would do that almost every time for a year, and she never got it because she never seen Archer, which is hilarious. And so there's actually a person at my job who's fairly recent. Well, so this person actually works in the office where I work remotely, and so I've never met this person. And they had actually been working for a while, but because in the office our roles would cross each other, but working remotely, there would be no reason why I would end up kind of having really too much to do with them. So I wasn't even really aware that they were even there for the first month or so that they were there. And then I couldn't remember their name. Then someone told me, "Oh, well, their name is then." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I can remember that now." Straight just because of Archer. Okay, yeah, now that I know that name, it's yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
We had and I'm not going to rehash it, but you and I think had a conversation, we were talking, and it was a while back about the subtleties, and I mentioned it's because it's about H. John Benjamin, the subtleties when Patrick Warburton, all of his characters sound the same, or at least on the surface they do, but if you listen to his Joe Swanson, it really is different than his Kronk. And it's different than...
Kronk was Patrick Warburton, yeah?
What? Yeah, did I say Patrick Warburton?
I think you said H. John Benjamin.
I'm sorry, I was talking about Patrick Warburton. Okay. But anyway, but it's different. It's different from Joe Swanson from Family Guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's different from his Kronk. It's different from his Brock from the Venture Brothers. They on the surface they all sound the same, but there's a different inflection that he does in a slight different tone that most people don't really pick up on. And I think it's the same thing with H. John Benjamin. If you listen to his Bob, you listen to his Archer, you listen to his Coach McGurk, right? They may sound the same, but really it's it's the cadence, it's how he speaks words and everything that really differentiates them. And you have to have that kind of ear to pick it up.
Yeah.
And it's and I thought you and I had that conversation, but it may have been me and somebody else.
Yeah, I don't think we did, but I know with when Patrick Warburton's doing Kronk, it's it's kind of like that article that we were reading. He does a lot of low whispering, but then he gets excited and his voice kind of cracks. Yeah, I got that. He's my what's happening? And it's like it's a lot more like a lot more of the emphasis is in the front of his mouth when he's Joe. Hey, Peter. And you know, he doesn't really have the voice crack there.
Right.
So yeah. Interesting.
I find voice actors to be it's such interesting talent. I watched a video with one of my favorite voice actors. You know, I have tons of, but one of my favorite voice actors, Phil Lamar, and he was talking about how he comes up with like the voices for different characters and like how he draws upon different things. So he mentioned, when I was watching, he I think it was like Green Lantern, and how he came up with the voice of the John Stewart Green Lantern. He's like he channeled like his dad, or like this military guy he knew to kind of like be like how he kind of like grounds the voice and how he projects differently, and that's different from like his Aquaman, you know, and it's different from this thing and from that thing. And it's interesting that when you have a guy that, or a person with that kind of range and talent, and you can pick up on their voice right away.
Yeah.
Even though like the character they're doing is like, I know that person, even though like their voice is different from another character they do, but I can recognize that person.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I mean, that's a lot of talent, you know, that I don't think like a lot of voice actors get the recognition that they deserve because they're not getting that screen time.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
like Justin Roiland is incredible, and you know he handles so many of the different voice duties on Rick and Morty.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting how he does them like back and forth. Like
yeah.
That's kind of cool. Like, and I'm sure that obviously sometimes it overlaps. They may just do that in post, but you know how he just jumps from one to the next and they just carry on a full conversation. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And like from a business perspective, it's just smart because you know he basically gets paid for each role that he's cast in. You know, so like that pays off for him. But yeah, it's incredible just the way he slips into the characters and will just slightly turn his head and just go ham.
Like Cree Summers is another one that is so good. You know, she can do like an Elmira. You know, she can do you know. So she, I think she did the voice for both number three, and number three's sister on Kids Next Door.
Oh, number 5.
It was number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5, and I think she also did the sister too. And but then she also like the voice she did for, I can't remember the girl's name now, but in Disney's Atlantis.
Oh, the Kirakakash.
Yeah, but I mean, and that was I mean, Atlantis is a good movie anyway. Her character is really nice. It's well done.
Of course, she was Susie in Rugrats.
Yeah,
and of course the older version in All Grown Up. She voiced Dulcie the Dragon in the Sonic Saturday morning cartoon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you recognize, when you hear it, you recognize you're like, oh, that's Cree Summer, even though like the voice is different.
Yeah. Tara Strong is another really recognizable one.
I'm going to tell you that Tara Strong fools me.
Really?
Yeah, because there's sometimes the voice you hear and I'm like, that's the same person. Like I just wouldn't. You hear now like, wow, that's because she does. What's his name? Timmy Turner, right?
Yep.
She does Timmy Turner, but then she also does a damn good Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
she does a great Harley Quinn.
And then she does Raven, not Starfire.
Yeah, she does Raven. Yep, and she does Dill in Rugrats.
And she is a complete smoke show. I mean, obviously we're talking about talent here, but I just got to put out, holy Jesus.
She is very attractive, yes. Back in the day, like back in the 90s, the voice actor for Tommy Pickles from Rugrats was quite attractive too.
I don't think I ever saw her.
Let me find you a picture, my friends.
Somebody else I was just thinking about too. That's a really good voice actor that you just completely like end up like sleeping on, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but now the name's escape me.
Trying to think. Who was the guy who did the voice of Samurai Jack?
That is Phil Lamar.
He's good.
Mm-hmm.
I like him a lot. I gotta find I gotta find older ones. Because there was a fine line of delineation, if you will.
Oh, look, Until Dawn.
Oh, sweet. We need to...
Oh, you know what? If once we get our capture shit working again,
Yeah.
I have to say I think I'm about ready to go back and do another play of Until Dawn.
Yeah, well, we gotta study a walkthrough, for sure. But, damn,
Yeah, we've got to know which things to do to make sure that bitch dies.
yeah, because, like, the whole thing was, that we missed, like, one prompt.
It was very early on instilling trust in the guy, in the boyfriend.
Yeah, because, like, there's one choice where you're supposed to disagree with her. You disagree with her that you don't immediately do what she says.
But she's supposed to give you the flare gun.
Yeah.
So,
if you disagree with her, then when she gives you the flare gun, you pocket it.
that's
And
right.
what we
you don't
did was we agreed with her because it's like we knew that we were going to go there regardless. The game doesn't give you a choice. Here we go. There she is, younger. That's the voice.
Oh, Elizabeth Daily.
Yeah.
From Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, she was in Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's Dottie. I'm a loner, Dottie.
Oh, yeah.
A rebel.
I'm a rebel, yeah. Yeah, no, I haven't seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but, yeah, like, back in the day, that was her.
Man.
She was good stuff.
I don't disagree at all. So we were just talking about Until Dawn, which we haven't posted our playthrough of any of the Until Dawn stuff.
Yeah. Editing got so labor intensive.
But we still have everything. We're going to get around to that eventually. For those of you that ever played Until Dawn and know anything about it, we have 3 playthroughs.
We have the first one that was me, and then we have...
And then you accidentally got Chris killed, right?
I got everybody killed except for the bitch.
But Chris, we accidentally got him killed because I started playing the game before you, and when I first got it,
Yeah, which
and
we didn't record. That was off camera.
But that was because we weren't even doing anything yet.
Yeah,
I
we
was just
hadn't
playing by
started the
myself, and I missed my buttons up for which one was the shoot button, and I didn't shoot, and I got him killed.
Yep.
Then we played when our recording, and the same thing happened to you at the exact same spot, and you got your buttons mixed up and got him killed.
Yeah, because I was tapping X.
Right.
And
And you're supposed to be hitting like a trigger
yeah,
button
you're
or
supposed
something.
to pull the right trigger. So that happened, but then I finished the game and every fucking person died except for Hayden Panettiere's character and the bitch.
And the bitch. And so we went back and we saved the guy that time.
But then we found out that it wasn't saving the file.
Right.
Because we kept reloading the save, and every time we reloaded the save, it reloaded from my thing. So we were like, wait a minute, why is everybody dead? What the hell?
Right. Like when we reloaded, if we had kept playing through, but when we messed up, we kept trying to go back, but we were going back to the previous game file, not our current game file, and it fucked everything up.
So we started a third one without finishing that one, because why bother?
And that's when I was playing, and we... Oh, and you had me open the door.
Yeah, on the third playthrough, it was perfect.
It was perfect.
You saved Sam? Or Ashley? Is it
Yeah,
Ashley?
Ashley.
Well, Ashley's the redhead. Ashley's the one that we got killed.
You got killed.
We. You could have told me to fuck off, and you could have not listened to me.
I should have.
So yeah, you saved Mike's girlfriend with the chase scene in the woods.
And I did so well with that too.
You blew up the Wendigos and saved Chris. It was all set. I even talked you out of killing Emily, which we've done consistently on all of our plays.
And that's what I was getting to, was when we had the option to kill Emily, and that was so fucking satisfying. Oh my god.
We clipped the audio the first time we did it, which we didn't do on my playthrough, because I thought, I can still salvage this game session. That joke was on me.
Oh, that was the best when we shot her.
we definitely clipped the audio laughing on that.
I still go to bed thinking about that. Like, I wake up with a smile on my face by shooting her.
So everything was going well. We were in the home stretch. We'd even managed to reunite with one of the characters that we thought was dead.
Yep.
And then Ashley was walking down a hallway, and there was a trapdoor that was getting bumped on, and I was like, well, wait a minute, that could be the girlfriend. We haven't found her yet. You should open that and see if she's trying to get out. And God bless his heart, Turk decided to listen to me. And he popped open the door, and a damn Wendigo popped out and ripped her head right off. There was a few minutes of silence, and the only thing Turk said as he turned slowly to me was, I hate you so much.
Did I keep going, or did I quit at that point?
I think we kept going, because we had most of the people saved on that one, and we got to see because that one was where we finally had enough clues to reveal that the one Wendigo was his sister.
Yep.
So yeah. So we finished that one, but then it was like, we got to do a complete playthrough.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that kept us from saving the athletic kid was the flare gun thing.
Yep.
Because there's a point where Emily's like, let's go up to the watchtower, and you're supposed to say, no, that's a dumb idea, and then she makes you go anyway. Mm-hmm. And so on our previous playthroughs, we always did that, and then we knew that we had to save the flare gun, and so we knew that we had to go up there, so when she was like, let's go up to the watchtower, we were like, yeah, okay, whatever. And we go up there, and she hands us the flare gun, and we're like, okay, we're gonna make sure we pocket this and use it for later, and unprompted, the character just points it to the sky and shoots it. And we were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, what's your problem?
What's your deal? And so, yeah, we were really mad about that.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. Oh. And, yeah. And we made a different choice too. And that one thing where we hid in the elevator shaft.
Yep.
And that led us to a different thing where we got different clues to figure out. So that I think that was probably our most revealing playthrough to really kind of be like, oh wow, we're figuring out the story here. It was yeah, man, it was good. So
it was going so well until you let me make one decision. That was where it all fell apart.
So, but it's been about 2 years now,
something like that. Yeah,
so I can't believe it took that long for me to decide that I think I'm ready to play again.
Yeah,
we've talked about that so much. We actually need to stop and get that posted.
We do, yeah. We've been sitting on the raw files for too long. But yeah, there was all that, and we had a bunch of stuff recorded that we hadn't, that we weren't ready to post, and then the capture cards started giving us storage issues because we didn't know it. Yeah, we didn't know it, but it was saving like every file in like 5 different places, so the computer was just filling up like crazy fast. And
then we had to, because we kept getting that error where we were recording, it wasn't recording everything. It was like, what's going on?
Yep.
So then we had to start like dumping after every recording. We had to dump all those other files and stuff.
Yep.
And
it would drop frame rate. It wouldn't capture everything.
Yeah, that was horrible. But we still have a lot of good. Like we still got like Ninja Baseball Batman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still got that to post, and we've got some good stuff out there. We just got to get it. We just have to get it posted.
Yeah,
man.
The biggest thing was that my laptop that had all my editing software died, and I didn't have like the money to buy more editing software. I thought I'd saved the disc, but it just completely disappeared.
Damn.
Which which I wouldn't be surprised if certain problematic people in my life like threw out the disc or some shit. It would not have surprised me at all. Not my mom. Lest anybody think. But, I mean, like, I looked all over for that disc. I completely tore my studio apart looking for that thing, so... Like, I finally got the new software, but ever since then, it's, like, been, you know, new jobs and new situations and a pandemic, and it's like, shit, I don't have time to edit.
Yeah, life just ripped shit apart, didn't it? Mm-hmm. So,
like,
yeah.
several ways over for us, because it wasn't just the pandemic, it was also dealing with, like, job-related stuff and family-related stuff and all that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. You know, we keep talking, I said we, but everyone keeps talking about, you know, like last year, you know, 2020 was just, you know, it was like a blur of just like what the crap. And I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it was definitely more than just that. It was so much of everything. It was like it was like juggling in a hurricane. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like I don't really know kind of what I'm doing here.
I know we talked about that stuff off mic a lot, that, you know, we would be telling each other about our weeks or whatever, and, you know, we would both be saying, you know, this is just what I didn't need, was one more thing.
Right.
It's like, let me just add one more thing to the pile of already a million things that I'm dealing with, and, like... I have to say I'm very, very pleasantly surprised that we've been able to consistently put out the podcast.
Yeah.
And, you know, even in the thick of the pandemic, when, you know, we didn't see each other in person for like 6 months, and we still, like, we would record remotely, we did whatever we had to do, and it was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was, you know, it definitely was crazy. But, I mean, I think we got ourselves in a really good spot, and especially now with the podcast and everything, I think we're in a really good spot to where we, you know, when we first started the podcast, we were almost like, I don't want to say we weren't doing the podcast, but it was more of like a carryover from the gaming channel.
Yeah.
And we really didn't kind of know what we were doing as far as that goes. Mm-hmm. And now we're like, oh yeah, hey, we know how the podcast works, right, and how it how everything feels and works together, and it's cool.
And we've definitely got like a flow going to our conversation that took us a while to develop, because I know, like, with season 1 we did a lot of top 10s. We, you know, so much of our stuff was like list based and like preparation based, and we still do some stuff like that, but, you know, we're not nearly as reliant on it as we once were.
Yep.
And, you know, we've discussed this off mic, that we're really, like, for a long time, I didn't think that we had anything special as far as, like, improv stuff goes. It was like, you know, we banter back and forth because we're friends, but I didn't think we really had any particular improv skills. But seeing the way other people interact and try to do improv, and seeing the way other podcasts try to do improv, it's like, no, we actually do pretty good.
Yeah.
Not to just sit here and jack myself off, but like we've got some pretty like good timing and rhythm and banter with our jokes and stuff.
I think you know, when we first started and when we first started and we were doing the podcast and stuff, it was like we didn't really kind of know what, I don't want to say we didn't know what we were doing, but we really didn't know kind of like what way we wanted to go with it and what was going on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we really didn't know like kind of how to prepare. Right. You know? And right. Now, even with like this, like a topic list kind of like episode here.
Yeah, like it's free flow.
Yeah, it's we actually do prepare. We still allow for a space for improv, but we really do prepare a lot for the episode. And even if it's like, so there's a documentary that was on HBO about Gary Shandling, and it's by Judd Apatow. And it's really cool, but they were saying, I remember that some of the other comedians that they were interviewing were talking about how just in awe of his talent they were, because they would be there, about to go on, and they're going over like their set and their jokes, and he would just be back there with a notepad, just writing down a sentence or two. And then he would go out there and do his whole bit, and he hadn't practiced or prepared anything. He would just write while he's sitting there in the back waiting to go on. He just writes down a couple of sentences about something, and then he would just go off of that. And not that I'm comparing myself in any way to him, but we've got this thing where we can say, okay, I don't need to write out a full script. I can just say, okay, we're going to do an episode about this. I can jot down a couple of things, and it's enough for me to be able to continue to carry on from there without doing this whole scripted thing that sounds scripted.
Yeah, yeah. Well, plus, I think a big thing for us is, this just sounds like we're just sitting here like talking about how awesome we are, but something that has impressed me with working with you has been that we can typically tell who's going to take point as the straight man versus the bombastic one. Right. We don't have a set role with that. It's going to vary from episode to episode, and there's some episodes where, like, you'll be ranting and you'll be the one cracking the jokes, and I'm just kind of, like, trying to support that and lead into your next thing, and, like, okay, well, how bad is it? But then, like, at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of my humor is being, like, the loud, goofy, stupid cartoon character, and so if I take point on that, then you tend to really, like, pave the way for me to just continue being stupid and kind of, like, feed that fire. So, like, it's cool. We don't have that discussion ahead of time.
Right.
It's like, we just can pretty much tell that it's like, okay, he's being quieter, I'll take point on this one, and then we just kind of step into that role. It's pretty organic for us, really.
Yeah, and it's something that we kind of like grew into without having to kind of be like define that role.
Right.
It was just like, it's like, okay, I see how this is going, and and I'm gonna kind of do this, or like you say, kind of I'm gonna take the lead on this one, or you'll take the lead, or whatever it is. And it's not always either like who came up with the idea, like this is my podcast topic. It's just like whichever one of us is just really kind of like I don't want to say like taking over, but filling that space there the most. Right. And I like the fact that we can both play. They said the loud, bombastic one, right. Or we can both just kind of play the straight guy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about how you and I operate in the show is we don't, even though we'll laugh at our own jokes sometimes, we don't set out to really make ourselves laugh.
Right.
We try to be funny. And we can't see everyone like the listening, and we're trying to make sure that that whatever it is that it's funny enough to me that I think that's going to be funny to them, but we try to make each other laugh.
Right.
And that's the one thing that I think the great thing is, like, we set out to see if we can make the other person crack, and not all the time. Like, I'm going to see if I can make, but when we can make that person crack, and then when we both, especially, I think it's not every time we record. I think in certain recording sessions where whatever's going on, we get into this like groove and we get in sync, and then it's always like we're always like, damn it, you beat me to the joke. You beat me to the joke.
Yeah.
And we're right there with it.
Yeah, that happens a lot with the Let's Watches too. Like if we find really good stuff to Let's Watch. So, and when we had some rotten luck with Let's Watches this week, But yeah, that's typically where we really start to get that sync going on, is when we both will make like the same dumb joke in the same voice of the same character, and it's like, yeah, we've hit the sweet spot now. I
will say the one thing I don't like about our our recording is that because of the way we have to do our recording sessions, right now, is that every recording session, well, it seems like every recording session will have its own, like, running joke for that recording session.
Right.
That doesn't carry over like, to the next recording session. And that, it's a shame because it'd be kind of cool if it did like for like this whole session, except for right now, none of us have said, because I know recording, because I'm Italian, right?
Yeah,
like
Italian.
Right, that was stuck with its own recording session, and it's sometimes those things that it's something which we should be able to. It would be nice to kind of carry on,
Right.
But it's all up. It's almost like its own little time like sphere.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sphere, spherical.
We had suicidal Johnny Sacco. We had John Stamos as a hired killer. But, like, some of our running jokes are timeless, because Child Anakin, like, we still joke about all the time. Racist Bane, we still joke about all the time.
Not as much as we used to, though.
Yeah,
Racist Bane kind of, unfortunately, like, 2020, like, brought real Racist Banes out, and we're like, yeah, he's not as funny right now.
Yeah, there's something about seeing the ugly side of that. It's like,
And I think from not very, very early on, but early enough on where I was like, I'm afraid that Racist Bane is going to turn into like the new Pepe. That was always my fear, that Racist Bane was going to turn into the new Pepe.
that's probably where all those subscribers are coming from. It's like, wait a minute, these guys are racist!
Oh. So, oh no, I'm mad.
Yep. So, oh, damn it, who is it? Okay. You would think people would know by now not to text me when I'm here, but they do.
Yeah. It's like, don't text me when, it's like, how many told you I'd say, don't text me when I'm practicing my kung fu? But yeah.
It's not as bad as it used to be. We used to, like, regularly get phone calls when we were recording. And,
yeah, and now we don't, which is great.
yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I will say I enjoy our topicless episode, not as much because I do feel that it can sometimes feel like almost like a crutch. But I do like when we can just kind of free form, just like, hey, let's just kind of like have like a little sit down and just kind of talk to, our like kind of faceless audience. And just kind of, hey, this is what's going on. And then just kind of like have a little bit of banter about, whatever.
Yeah.
So, I like that.
Well, it's pretty rare that we have real talk,
No, that's true.
Like, as far as being on the podcast, I know every once in a while we'll do, like, a special announcement kind of video, like we did when we decided to take the Let's Watches off of YouTube.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's still a situation I'm frustrated about. All this time later.
But I will have to say though, in the end, I'm happy with it. Because there's a I guess you have to play within their. I don't even want to say you have to play within your sandbox, but you got to play kind of like the way they want you to play, and I'm not too cool with that.
Yeah, I've seen like the really ugly side of YouTube now, and I will say they finally demonetized Onision's channel after like 15 years of this guy being one of the worst people on the platform. They finally demonetized him.
Which one was he?
He was that psychotic dick brain who like abused all of his girlfriends and groomed a bunch of minors to have sex with him like the day they turned 18. And
was he the he's not the guy that the whatchamacallit, guy that used to be the or is the singer for whatever that band
No,
was.
no, that's Davi Vanity. He needs to die. we probably, I mean, if we were concerned about YouTube, we'd get in trouble for saying that. But he is a scum human being.
He sounds like it.
Like Onision's just a bitch. Like he's just a piece of shit as a human being. But Davi Vanity is a pox on humanity who should not. It's like amazing to me that he's still up to the same shit that he's been up to since like 2003, and just keeps on doing his thing. It's horrific.
Yeah, that's the it's and this is not just YouTube related, and I don't want to get off on a whole YouTube thing. They don't deserve that. But I do hate this whole thing where it's like, yeah, I get that these people are bad, but you know they're bringing us a lot of money, so I can look the other way. And it's like, really, that's your main concern? Is like, yeah, but they're bringing us a lot of money, so yeah, are they really that bad? Or I'll give them a little slap on the wrist, and you know, and that'll turn them around,
Right?
Yeah, oh,
right.
okay. And or you know, like in our case, where it's like, okay, well, you know, we're not doing anything that bad, but we're also not bringing you any money, so
Right.
it's okay for you to like tell me to like, you know, turn my head and cough. But these guys here, you know, it's like, oh well, you know, we'll look the other way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's been a lot of problems, which I think the only reason they finally demonetized Onision is that Chris Hansen really fucked everybody over. Yes, that Chris Hansen.
You know, I call him Chris Hansen.
I called you Chris Hansen. I likes you. I wants you.
So there was a big thing about him recently that I was. Yeah,
because he's a twat.
Well, I was going to
That's a
say
big thing about him.
I recently joined this subreddit called Out of the Loop.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this one?
Nope.
So there's a subreddit, and it makes me feel old. There's a subreddit called Out of the Loop, and basically it's like people are like, hey, what's the deal with blah 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 that's going on right now that everybody's talking about? And then sometimes you'll get an answer about what that deal is. And since not every question is answered, sometimes like I don't even know what the hell it is. It sounds stupid. I don't really give a shit.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of times it'll be like people will be like, oh hey, what's the deal with this thing I'm hearing a lot about? And I saw something about Chris Hansen, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. Well. So because I was like, I don't give a shit about him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, long story short, fuck him. But basically what happened is he started interviewing all of Onision's victims, or a lot of Onision's victims, and, you know, he talked a big game. He was like, I've got connections in the FBI, we can put this guy behind bars, we can see to it that your story is known, we can get you justice. And then, like, nothing happens for a long time, and everybody's like, okay, what's the deal? You said this guy was a problem, you said you take care of him, you said you have connections. He's like, yeah, well, don't worry. You know, one of his victims gave us a laptop with a whole bunch of evidence, and this evidence is going to be really crucial to turning things over to the FBI. So I've turned this over to my assistant. So everybody's like, wait a minute, your assistant? Why wouldn't you make sure you just keep this laptop full of important evidence? And then the assistant just announces on Twitter, he's like, yeah, I'm going to fuck up this laptop, and he does.
So wait, so
they lose all the evidence.
So the assistant just decides that he's not going to like help him, like he's
yeah, like I don't think he deleted everything, but he did something that compromised that evidence so that.
But why?
Because he's a bitch. I mean, basically, like all.
So the assistant's just like, oh hey, for whatever reason, I'm just gonna screw this all over.
Pretty much, yeah. Just to watch the world burn. From what I understand, maybe I'm missing some details on it. I haven't followed it as closely as a lot of stuff. But, yeah, so he does all that, and then things go quiet again, and everybody's like, Chris, buddy, you said you would be talking to the FBI. You said you'd be helping out the victims. And he's like, yeah, don't worry. I'm in talks about selling the rights to this for a documentary.
Selling the rights for it? Okay.
Yep, and so everybody's like, fucking excuse me, do what? It's like, yeah, no, I'm selling the rights for a 3-part documentary. And they're like, okay, well, all of us told our story to you to pass it on to the FBI. We didn't tell you our stories for you to sell it to a documentary. So none of us give our consent.
I think like maybe one of his victims gave consent for their story to be in there. All the rest were like, no, we don't want our story on national television. It's one thing for our story to be on YouTube, and a few thousand people might see it, but on national television, that's millions.
Right.
They're like, don't worry, we won't put your story in there. It turns out they fucking did. They dropped a 3-part documentary.
Okay, so I have a question here. So if this evidence that was on the laptop was so crucial and was going to put this guy away, or whatever it was going to do to him, or expose him for whatever he was, and this assistant just screws it all up. I mean, isn't that like tampering with evidence or?
Yeah. I'd have to really look it up to see what happened with the assistant there. So,
and like, why would you do that?
Chris Hansen, assistant laptop, something like that. But yeah, so basically, people already got pissed off at the documentary because of all that, because it put all the ladies' faces in there, all their stories, all that stuff, and so everybody was already mad. And then in the first part of the documentary, they were like, yeah, nobody cared about who Onision was till Chris Hansen came on the scene. People have been covering this jerk since, like, 2005, something like that. Like, Repsion's been covering him at least since then. So, everybody who's, I mean, there's like dozens of YouTubers who cover this guy's shit, and they're like, no. Everybody cared who he was. You didn't care who he was till you came on the scene and realized you could make a buck off of it.
Right.
So, shit, I can't find it right now. I'll have to look for it and like do a follow up on it.
Yeah, please. I would really like to know.
Yeah. There's something. Oh yeah, here's an hour-long video. Chris Hansen on the latest with the Onision scandal. So yeah, it just basically he talked a big game, but in the end he didn't have any intention of ever getting the guy behind bars. He had the intention of getting a documentary going on it.
Wow.
And so yeah, so when all the YouTubers were like, dude, you're fucking the victims over. It's like, we don't care about us, you're fucking the victims over. And so then in part 2 of the documentary, they took a few clips of these YouTubers saying he's taking unfair advantages of the victims, and they're like, oh, you see, the YouTubers are mad because they feel like Chris Hansen's an outsider to YouTube, and he's stepping on their toes. But all he's really trying to do is help the victims. They're like, we don't give a shit about any of that.
Because he's an outsider to YouTube. Like, YouTube doesn't have insiders or outsiders. Right? It's just YouTube.
Exactly, and that's exactly what Repsion said. And they were like, we don't care about that, whether you're an insider or outsider. We just want what's right to be done. They're like, well, you told the victim stories. And they're like, we had their permission. Right. We had their consent. See, that's the whole issue here, is having the consent. So, it's, oh, here we go. So this is Repzilla's Twitter, and Repzilla's a really good YouTuber. I like him a lot. So, oh, this is pretty big. From the Hansen moderation team. In light of recent events, we've elected to publish our own group statement. This is under our own directive, separate from Chris Hansen and his affiliates. To clarify, none of us have been in agreement with Vincent's behavior. That's the assistant. Regarding the initial hack, Vincent had sent a variation of his initial offensive tweet to Regina. Whether or not he or his friend, who was also coincidentally named Chris, posted it is unclear. This is like a whole ass 2 pages of stuff. To clarify, none of us have been in agreement. We read that. Behind the scenes, during the initial few days of the fallout from that tweet, Vincent had to be repeatedly talked to by a handful of moderators. He was repeatedly told that he was putting both the moderation team and Chris Hansen in a bad position and was damaging the credibility of the investigation by continuing his behavior. He not only ignored us, he also began to act volatile and abusive, only calming down and begging for help when the reality of his actions became apparent to him.
And this is the guy that trashed the laptop?
Yeah. During this time, he also complained that he felt unappreciated for the work he does, so I guess that was the motive right there, is Deary didn't feel like his needs was being met. So, Chris has also been approached about Vincent and his conduct a number of times and has said that he would like to fire him. Unfortunately, Chris has said he also needs to figure out how to replace him so that this can happen. There is no way that
You can't find someone to replace somebody that does, like, what does he do on a laptop?
Right? Yeah, like, it's a virtual assistant role, for God's sake. My mom could do it, and she has no technical knowledge at all.
Grow up, Chris Hansen. Let's see. We are unsure of the truth of this statement, but are in mutual agreement that ultimately Chris Hansen is well-intentioned and out of his depth of knowledge with regards to the internet and online culture. Well, the golden rule is if you don't know what you're doing, don't put shit on the internet.
Right.
Fucking boomers. We had no idea that Vincent's claims were fraudulent regarding Sarah's laptop, nor that it had been returned to her until the morning of January 21st. We were shocked, horrified, and above all, appalled by this discovery. We do not know if these lies were exclusively delivered to the public or to Chris himself.
So he gave the laptop back to the woman?
I guess so, and it was saying something about a hack, so I guess he didn't trash it. He did something to compromise those files. Additionally, the moderation team was published by Vincent to publicize or share information for him. Many of us did so, assuming him to be a trustworthy source of information. At present, this entire debacle calls into question the credibility of that information, and we are deeply sorry for furthering this man's blatant lies. So basically, he just provided a whole bunch of conflicting information, and he did something with the laptop involving hacking, quote unquote, hacking it and returning it to the girl in question that basically delegitimizes all of the evidence on it.
And the reason for this was because I'm unappreciated.
I'm unappreciated.
That's not going to get you more appreciated there, ass face.
So yeah, then they go on to talking about how it's definitely not their fault, and they shouldn't be held to blame for this because they're not even paid. They're just moderating for Chris Hansen.
What does he even do anymore?
Apparently he just, steals money and causes shit, so... But yeah, what kind of fucking excuse is that? This guy has jeopardized everything, and you're just gonna say, oh yeah, but, I gotta replace him?
Because I don't know how.
I can't answer my own emails.
I don't know how the internet works.
Okay, so here we go. Here's somebody summarizing it. First, he claimed, so he posted a bunch of nasty tweets about everything, about all this Onision shit. Then he claimed that his account was hacked. Then he claimed a friend did it. Then it was recently discovered that he never turned Sarah's laptop and phone with evidence to the FBI, and it was apparently sent back to her. So, I'm assuming that because of that, because it was in his possession and then went back to her, if it went over to the FBI from there, then Greg could claim in court, oh, but you see, it was with this guy, so this guy could have loaded up whatever he wanted to on there, and it's not legitimate evidence anymore. So having it go to second and third parties is what delegitimizes it and compromises everything. So yeah, there we go. So that's what's been going on with that. So I used to kind of like Chris Hansen, but he's kind of a twat.
I never did. I always thought his whole shtick was really kind of what's the word I'm looking?
Entrapment.
Well, the whole deal is okay. I'm gonna set this whole thing up, and then these guys are gonna come over, and it's so what'd you come over here for, huh? It's and then the police are waiting outside, and I'm okay, but here's the deal, what actually have I done? Not that I'm making it okay, but I'm what actually have I done here? I haven't done anything.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know what happens when that stuff gets taken to court, or if it gets taken to court. You've obviously got intention. You've got it, it's pretty provable that, the guy wrote the shit that he wrote from his personal accounts, but
I go over to the person's house though, but I still haven't done anything. What can you charge me with, honestly?
Well, it's weird because, as I understand it, if they're trying to bust somebody for a drug deal, the drugs and money have to change hands. Mm-hmm. And so, you can't just send a text and say, hey, come to my house and buy some crack. Like, if they arrested you when you went to that person's house, it wouldn't happen because no drugs or money changed hands. So, I don't think anything could really happen with that because the guy's just walking through the door. And yeah, you've got the text saying, hey, come to my house and we'll do the dirty, but, no action has been taken, so I don't know.
Get up. Damn it.
You got busted.
I don't know why I kept squatting down like he had to take a shit or something. Anyway.
Shit, we've been talking for 50 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
well, this is what I think is kind of weird, right? Let's say that I say I'm going to sell you some drugs, and I'm going to hey, I'm going to sell you this Coke, and what I do really give you is like a bag of like talcum powder. Mm-hmm. I can still get busted for selling drugs.
Yeah.
That doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, especially if you intentionally knew that it wasn't drugs.
Right. So it's but the intent was me to sell him some shit that was talcum powder that I said was drugs. It's if anything, he should be in trouble for trying to buy drugs from me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, and that doesn't work like that. I don't understand. How can I get in trouble for selling something that I'm not really selling?
Yeah. It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. But yeah, the Onision thing, like I said, I haven't been following it as closely as when I first discovered it. When I first discovered it, it was just falling down the rabbit hole all over again. And
yeah.
And at first it was oh, maybe I found me another Chris Chan. And then it was no, this is worse. This is way worse. There's nothing funny about this shit. Good Lord. But
I gotta say that goes back to our whole thing about YouTube, and it's we don't care though. Mm-hmm. We don't care because this person is bringing us this much money or X or whatever. So that's someone else's problem. Mm-hmm. Until of course it's. We're not getting the money that we feel that we're deserving, or whatever it is, right. And then we'll give them explain it. But we're not really going to try to help the problem,
right? And that's the thing. It's they finally demonetized him, but it's why the hell did it take you this long?
Right.
People have been calling attention to him since 2003. It's you've got no reason for this to have taken this long.
It's it's I'm gonna squeeze all the money I can from this until it's no good to me anymore, and now I'll go ahead and I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it goes back to what we talked about when we did that episode, which I think we just called it F YouTube.
Yeah.
Where when they killed what's his face, Leafy is Here. When they killed Leafy is Here's channel, and it's okay, when you take out somebody who's bullying, if you want to call it that. If you take out a commentary channel for the pretense of bullying, but you leave these known sexual predators completely alone and enable these known sexual predators with taking no action, that's a really bad look for you.
Yeah.
It just makes you look like a really, really bad group of people. It's weird. I mean, but yeah, we've been all over the place with this, but we've been going about 50 minutes. You wanna call it an episode?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but this was fun. We kind of got to talk about what's going on with us, talk about how we're feeling about things, and yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I mean, it's good. I like these kind of moments where it seems like we get to just kind of talk to our audience in a sense.
Yeah.
And be hey, it's this is kind of cool. This is what's going on with this. I don't know how many people actually listen to or even like these episodes, but, they're fun for us.
Yeah. Well, it's within their power to message us and tell us to stop doing these kind of episodes.
That's right.
So,
it's all on you.
We can't help that there's not audience engagement like we want to see. And, yes, I've said numerous times that if they tell us to stop, that I'll just not. And I will continue to stick by that, but that doesn't mean that I don't want the audience engagement.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I like having the audience engagement, knowing they're there.
I want the audience engagement and validation, and I want verification that I'm their favorite podcaster.
Well, I mean, that should go without saying, right?
It should, but I'm kind of insecure about it.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought you the type.
Just sometimes, in the cold, dark, lonely nights.
Right.
I find myself asking, like, am I the best podcaster ever?
You're a fine podcaster.
Anyway, yeah, I've been Acomi. This has been fun.
Yeah, my name is Turk182, and I appreciate you guys listening and humoring us while we just kind of prattle on and talk about things, here, there, and whatnot. Just things that are going on with us, and at least as much as what's going on with us. And just kind of like sharing these little bits. I don't want to say I want to do more of these, but I do think, especially kind of with the time that we live in, it's nice to just sometimes just be able to be like, hey, you know what? We're let's just kind of say hello.
Yeah.
That's it. Let's just say hello.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, well, we'll let you guys go.
Yeah, man.
But you come on back and give us another listen. If you haven't heard about the whole Onision Chris Hansen situation, definitely check that out. We'd be interested in hearing people's thoughts on that shit.
Yeah. I would like to say I want to hear more, but it doesn't sound like it's going anywhere. It sounds like it's pretty much a dead issue.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably still court cases in the future to be had, but I mean, grooming is not illegal in America.
Yeah.
That's the bullshit thing. Is like anything you can actually bust him for. He if he got himself a decent lawyer, he could probably weasel his way out of, which really sucks a big wet one. But
I know we kind of talked about this once before, but the idea of grooming, what actually is grooming? Because I have in my mind what it is, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, but like, what really are we talking about here?
Yeah, well, it's not exclusively sexual. I can groom anybody for anything. Like, you can groom somebody to take a position of leadership. That's what royalty would do, is they were grooming the prince to take the role of the king. Mm-hmm. But in today's context, when you're talking about sexual predators, they're grooming someone to have sex with them. So,
but how are you grooming them? Are you just really just coercing them, like slowly, like seducing them into saying like this is what
I'll give a good example. Mini Lad, famous YouTuber Mini Lad. Fuck that guy. He's yet another sexual predator on YouTube who has not been deplatformed while they're busy harassing guys like Markiplier and Super Mega for no damn good reason. So what this guy did is he engaged with a 16-year-old fan of his. He was like 23 at the time, I think. He found out that she was struggling with her mental health, and so they started talking about, you're depressed, I'm depressed too, this is what I'm struggling with, blah, 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 blah. And so he spends several days gaining her trust and making her feel like this is somebody she can talk to, somebody she can turn to. Mm-hmm. And then the conversation starts gradually turning sexual. It's kind of like turning the heat up on a frog. It's not something where it's just flagrantly like, hey, let's talk about sex, but just like kind
slow boil.
Just kind of slowly introducing such topics. And then finally one day,
and I don't mean to sound callous or be like a jerk, but isn't that just kind of like dating? Right? I mean, really, isn't that what you do? Like, I find a common interest with you, something that you will come to talk to me about or want to, an interest, and then I slowly start to tell you, oh yeah, by the way, I like to wear women's underwear. Do you have any used panties I can have?
It is, but the secret ingredient is crime because this is a 16-year-old girl, so. She's not really in a position to intelligently decide if she wants to have that kind of conversation with a 23-year-old man.
Okay, that I completely understand.
Plus, now this guy was in the UK or somewhere in Europe where there's actually a law that you can't take advantage of being in a position of power as a YouTuber with a big platform and lots of followers. The fact that he was using this power and platform of, I'm your favorite content creator, so talk to me. That in and of itself was illegal where he was from.
Okay, so it wasn't all that. It was the fact that she was underage. He's slowly starting to basically
right.
Okay.
Now the illegal part wasn't the grooming, because again, grooming isn't illegal here in America. Now, I don't know if it's illegal or not in Europe, but like what the problem is that. This is a 16-year-old who's already verified that she's struggling with her mental health, and so he starts introducing this stuff, and then one day he says, we've trusted each other for so long, I'm feeling suicidal. I don't really have a whole lot of reason to live. But if you send me some nudes, well, then that might help make me feel better. And if you don't, and I wind up killing myself, well, boy, it would sure be a shame if all of my fans knew that I killed myself because you wouldn't send me nudes.
So just guilting.
Yeah, it's guilt tripping, and grooming isn't always guilt tripping, but guilt tripping is a very common method of manipulation. So, that's where the crime is. The crime is in the fact that he received CP from a minor. And that's where the illegal shit is. The grooming aspect is just shitty and scummy, and no human should do it.
Right. No, that part I get. It's just I keep hearing so much about grooming. We're like, okay, so what do you do? You're slowly getting someone to like the things that, or do the things that you like. I'm like, hell, that's called marriage. I mean,
right.
So that's the thing that I'm fuzzy on with grooming, because I hear a lot about that is not always, that's not usually related to an underage thing, or it's it's more of a power thing. Like, you were in a position of power, and then they groom this person, but the grooming to I don't, that's the part I don't get. You keep calling it grooming, but what are they doing? It's you're manipulating them because of your power to do something that you want them to do, that, and not necessarily they don't want to do, but
I think a lot of it is in the intent too, because what you're talking about with people developing common interests and stuff, that's kind of an organic thing. That's just saying, oh hey, we have shit in common. I'll show you this movie, and maybe you'll like this movie too. And there's a very real difference in that versus oh, I hear you like movies. Well, I'll like movies too, so that I can trick you into sending me nudes later. And so, it's just it's so much more built around the actions and the intent versus what you actually see happening.
So it seems to me basically the concept of what everybody keep calling grooming is I'm doing all this stuff to manipulate you into doing or giving me something sexual. Mm-hmm. And I guess I never really always put it together that this had to be something sexual.
It doesn't have to be sexual. Like I said, people are politically groomed all the time. There's people in the royal family being groomed to take on a position of royalty. Right. But I'm just saying, in the American context, in the cancel culture of when you typically hear somebody is accused of grooming, when you hear about shit faces like Onision or Minilad or Lion Maker, then it's sexual grooming, Because there's nothing inherently immoral about grooming somebody to take a management role in your business. That just means you're training the person.
Right.
But there's no real manipulation involved there either.
But because what I keep hearing about when I think about that, I'm this is the same thing that you hear about in any kind of relationship is well, I'm grooming, because they would say grooming, but I'm getting this person to do the things that I like, the way I like them, but then they're also doing the same thing to you.
Right, right.
No one goes into a relationship, good, bad, or indifferent, whereas I stay completely the same, you stay completely the same, and it's no. So I guess it's what it boils down to. It's internet terms. It's internet terms or definitions for words but we're going to rewrite the definition of it to fit internet speak.
Right. Yeah, because like I said, the majority of where it comes into being a problem is the age of the person and the intent of the other party.
Right.
Because, you and I, show each other movies and books and stuff that we're into all the time, and, that wouldn't really be considered grooming, because it's we just share common interests. But when it's a 16-year-old that that you're eventually going to try to emotionally manipulate into sending you nudes, or else you'll kill yourself, then it becomes grooming.
Yeah,
and then you're a shitty person.
That's just, I wouldn't even call that grooming. That's just straight up manipulation.
Yeah.
Of an asshole. Why give it a new name when you can just say, oh, that's just manipulation. Yeah, that's all. That's just manipulation.
Yeah, I get that.
I think that's one of the reasons I hate about one of the things I hate about the internet is that they find a reason to give new names to shit that don't need new names.
Right.
I'm well, we're going to call it this now. But why? Because because we're not going to be, we're not going to be stuck with your archaic stuff,
I think the reason they call it grooming is because it's also normalizing things for the victim. Because now, in the future, when he, gets nudes from her or sexual favors of whatever sort, now he doesn't have to, work as hard to convince her, because it's gradually manipulating until it's just so normal for her that she doesn't.
But that's just manipulation.
It is manipulation. I would say that it's manipulation with extra steps.
Right.
You gotta be a little bit slower and more cautious with it when you're scum like that. So.
But I just manipulate you because the whole point of manipulation is to get you to do what I want the way I want it on a regular basis. Who I don't want you to just do it one time. I want you to do this like this, every time from here on out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, the whole idea for, like I said, internet, so it's just we're going to come up with new names for shit just because.
Right. Yeah, that's internet for you. But hey, we've been going for about an hour.
Oh yeah, man. We don't need to keep talking about this stupid shit that long.
Yeah. Nah. Didn't mean to run off on that rabbit trail. That was largely me.
Yeah, well, I ask questions. And, kids, it's never good to ask questions.
Never ask Acomi questions. He'll tell you. Oh, he'll tell you. But yeah. Basically, fuck Chris Hansen.
Pretty much.
But
I like you. I want you.
And we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Makes me never mind.
All right, but yeah, we'll catch you guys later.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Zang, yo.
All right there, folks. That was Our Moms Think We're Funny. Let's give them a hand.